Sorry, I have one request to make. People are still coming. I know that people are coming from all over the world. We have people from Ireland here, Republic of Ireland. We have people from Birmingham. We have people from Manchester. We have people from Scotland here. And we know that more people like that are coming, so they are behind. Can I ask that we move forward, just fill up any empty seat in front of you, so that when they come, they sit at the back, so we don't disrupt the flow of the day. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Hello, special all, can we all stand, please, for the national anthem?
They have to be there.
Welcome, special guest of honor, His Excellency, Senator Datti. Our sister, social activist, Priscilla. We have Baby downloaded. Yes, social activists, very well known. Please take your seat. We have Barrister Dele, Farotimi, have all come all the way from Nigeria, from the United States. We're delighted to have you with us today. Thank you so much for coming. And we have Area Father Charlie Boy at the back somewhere. Please take your seat at the high table. And of course, we have one of our team, powerful lady, Dr. Loretta, with us. Thank you so very much. Area Father, he's making his way. The star. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Shall we have the national anthem, charity begins at home? We will do the UK national anthem, British national anthem.
a team that took a letter to the Prime Minister's house. We went there yesterday, Sunday, knocked on his door. One of his staff came, took the letter, and we had a small talk outside the house. We told them that if you guys ignore Nigeria, refugees will be swimming, flying, crawling to this nation. So it's about time they pay attention to what is going on in that country. So this conference is interesting because I want good roads for my country. I want, as we speak, electricity has gone off somewhere in Nigeria. I don't want that to happen. You can be in this country. I came to this country in 1999, and I can tell you my light in my house has not blinked one day. Why can't we have that? So this conference is interesting because of that. Because of the corruption that is going on in Nigeria. Because of the hospital, the poor state of hospitals we have in Nigeria. That's what this conference is about. And we are privileged to have indomitable people who have come from Nigeria. Yes, they will be tearing apart all of these issues I've talked about, you know. I know there's a popular mantra from our principal when he says we need to go from consumption to production. A lot of people don't understand what that means. Now, when you see the value of the naira, today the value of the naira is 900 and nearly 50 pounds. 50 naira to a pound, 1 pound. In 1973, when I was in my secondary school, I was in secondary school in 1973, that's when we changed from naira, from the British pound to naira. Then it was 2 naira to a pound. And it was about 80 something to the dollar. To dollar. But look at where we are today. And I can tell you, I'm sorry, I'm not going to take your time. I have only 5 minutes before I introduce our speakers. When we had independence, Azikiwe was 37 years old. Yes? No, sorry, Awolowo was 37 years old. Azikiwe was 42 years old. Ibrahim Babangida was 25 years old. Abacha was 23 years old. Muhammadu Buhari was 24 years old. These are the same guys still in Nigeria today. And guess what? If we want to run, I can tell you how many people Your Excellency has gone to see. Who did they see when we got independence? Now I want to run to be a governor or a president. I've got to go to Mina to see one. I've got to go to Abuja to see so many. Why? Anyway, I did that. I just want our speakers to be fired up and drill down into these messages and into this conference as we have kicked it off. Thank you very much. Please give me the pleasure to call I always use that word, indomitable leader. He is no other person than Senator Yusuf Datti Baba Ahmed. Sir, you want to stay there, sir? Okay, stay. Thank you so much, sir.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the high table, fellow Nigerians, dear organizers, all protocols respectfully observed. It is a great pleasure to be here, even greater pleasure to feel the kind of love for our nation that you're displaying here and now. I'm only here to encourage your sense of nationalism. I'm here to ask you to keep up the love for our dear country. While the speakers will do the speaking, I will not have much to say, as you very well know. Very little I say, or the very little I have seen before now has rattled the system more than anything else. So out of respect for those who have advised before now, I would just like to encourage those who are going to speak, except maybe just making one or two notes that are fundamental. I have been saying that democracy, as you put it here in the theme, democracy belongs to the people who can practice it. If you can't practice delicate democracy, then it is not for you. Dividends of democracy belongs to the people who can extract it. Human rights and civil liberties belongs to the people who insist, take and keep it. If you can't, it's simply not for you. So struggling to practice democracy is very healthy. We'll continue to encourage all of us. Nobody says that democracy is easy. You only didn't tell us how delicate it was. And without going into so much comparison, because I'm speaking in general terms, I'm not speaking about the 2023 elections now. So no minister will fly to New York and make any allegations against me. If you recall that 80s into the late 90s, there was this genuine globalization of democracy around the world. But then there is a certain part of the world with very old, rich culture and history, namely the Middle East. Whatever democracy is going to provide, the rulers have provided it. So why do you need it anyway? You are safe, you are wealthy, you're comfortable, even as an ordinary citizen. And democracy will never give it to you. So they were clever enough to stay away from democracy. In Africa, however, we democratized. And we saw in the case of Nigeria, what did democracy correspond with? Personal wealth. What happened to the nation? Insecurity, mismanagement, and the rest. I believe in democracy. I don't believe in dictatorship or, I say, kind of monarchy that is practiced elsewhere, even though it has proven to be good. I believe in democracy. But what I even believe in more is that it must be practiced well. What is democracy? It is not having 3 arms of government. What is democracy is the constitution. If you don't follow the constitution, you simply do not have democracy. That is the simple truth. Now, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is different from the Electoral Act. And I repeat, I'm not speaking about the 2023 presidential elections. I'm speaking about we, the people. I'm speaking about the supremacy of the Nigerian Constitution, which says that any law that is at variance with this Constitution is to the extent of that variance, null, void, and of no effect. I'm speaking about the Constitution that has provided how the judiciary shall exist, the armed forces shall exist, the Nigerian police shall exist, the National Assembly shall exist. I'm speaking about the Nigerian Constitution, which says what must happen for there to be a validly elected president. And then interestingly, I have spoken about the opposite or the failure to have those conditions fulfilled. I am for now staying away from any controversy. I just want to speak about the fundamentals. Without a constitution, without abiding by a constitution, you do not have a democracy. Nothing will change this in the world. Constitutions come interpreted, they come simple, they come understandable, and they are to be followed, not to be disobeyed, and then ask wantonly for interpretation. Nobody has time to waste. Constitutions are meant to be followed. Right now, Constitution was followed in the judiciary, in the National Assembly, in the armed forces, in the police as they exist. The Constitution is to be followed, not to be interpreted, as far as the office of the president is concerned. So, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is a different document. The Electoral Act is a different document. I respect the courts. My principal has gone to court. I am with him, and all that we're doing, we wait patiently for the courts to. But now, we, the people, have a problem. If your constitution is violated and you sit watching, democracy is not for you. Interpret it anyhow you want. If you, the people, we, the people, watch the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria violated, and the best we can do is respectfully to hold lectures. Write UK government, all right, we'll receive your letters. Did you have more letters? Write and bring, they'll read your letters. Who told you democracy is easy? Nothing good comes easy. As I speak to you, even though we're not in any way comparable, Israel, we the people, are getting into their 8th week of protest because they don't believe in certain policies of their prime minister. 2021 to 2022, Indian farmers sat and occupied a certain location in India for over 1 year because of an obnoxious agricultural policy that they did not believe in until their government removed that policy. Nigerians, your constitution is brazenly violated in broad daylight, and you're writing letters. Your cosmates in the assailing political parties are rigging elections, changing the meaning of your constitution, and you're writing letters and holding conferences. Well, democracy is yours. It's yours to take and build. It's yours to take and play with. Nigerians, our destiny is ours. You can't come here and scare the UK that refugees will come. Yes, they come from everywhere. A few more from Nigeria doesn't make a difference. That's not how to motivate them. Go and practice your democracy, and we'll meet you somewhere and make it work. Nigerians, go and make your democracy to work. Thank you.
Please, another round of applause for Our Excellency. Thank you very much, sir. We have heard loud and clear. We need to work at our democracy, and we shall do exactly that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce my colleague who will also help me in anchoring or moderating this event. And he is going to introduce our next speaker. Please put your hands together for Ositadima Agu.
Thank you, dear compatriots. It's an honor to be here. I don't know whether you're happy as I am that we are making progress. It may be slow, but we're getting somewhere. There is something about this conference that I want everyone to pay particular attention to. And it says, democracy doesn't really matter. And Nigeria, the entire Nigeria is on trial because democracy is built of people. If you're talking about democracy and you don't take the people, who are the ones driving democracy? And as our Excellency, Senator Datti has said, when they appeared on the scene with this principle, His Excellency, they were the only people saying, we are running on the mandate of the people, not because who we are, where we come from, or anything else, because the people have sent us. And this principle continues to say that I don't want to lose my job, I'm working for it. So as his principle and himself stand in the law court, all the multitudes of Nigerians that voted are in the court. And that's what we say Nigeria is on trial. We'll unravel the truth someday. And like they say, I'd like to encourage everybody to actually be ready for democracy. It's a long walk, like people like us who are activists. You continue to demand what you need until you get it. You don't rest. Anytime you push, they'll give a little. You're going to get until you get what you want out of a system. I thank Nigerians who have been standing firm, practicing this. There are voices here which you will know about. And as I introduce one of them to you, I watched him talk in the USA. And he said he was going to talk. He didn't know the time. And after talking, he said, oh, I made it 10 minutes. I'm talking about no other than Dele, Farotimi.
Good afternoon. Well, they have been kind enough to give me 20 minutes to speak. But first thing first, my organ to make I do the property, do this. I want to know that we have lovers of Nigeria who are not necessarily Nigerians. And then we have Nigerians who have become British. And then we have Nigerians who are British and live in Britain. And then we have those of you who are sensible enough to have run away when you could. So I greet all of them. So they gave me pretty broad latitude. I've been asked to speak to the subject. What was happening? What happened? What will happen? So when I didn't even realize that I thought it was going to be a question and answer thing. But I saw these and I started asking myself, that was about 9. So what am I now supposed to say with all of this? So it made more and more sense as I kept listening to the different persons I spoke with before we started out. So those of you who speak the King's English, you pardon me, I'll struggle and try my best to make myself, let me borrow a Nigerian word, hearing. So what was happening? So I decided that I'll situate the question within the context of the theme. Nigeria on trial. Does democracy matter? So if you ask me what was happening, I imagine that you're asking what was happening with Nigerian democracy. So
I will take it from that point. I think what was happening before now is that Nigerian democracy, and don't worry, we'll tidy this up by the time we are coming to the end. I've got 20 minutes, I'm not likely to use it up, don't worry. I enjoy the time of my voice, so I'll keep it short. So what was happening is very simple. Prior to 2023 election, what has been happening since 1999 is that the Nigerian people have grown largely despondent about our democracy. We'll define it later, don't worry. Our democracy is peculiarly Nigerian. It's not the same as yours. So we'll explain that. So what's been happening is that the people have lost interest. They abandoned it. It became a space that was abandoned largely to the people who have taken over that space today, the charlatans, those who do not have the interest of the Nigerian people. In fact, the only thing that you will not find on their mind are the interests of the people. And this is clearly evidenced by everything you see when you look around Nigeria. The putrefaction you see, the decadence, the extreme poverty in the midst of plenty, the complete lack of ambition, what you would see in Nigeria was happening, and it was largely bedded in the pot of apathy. Now, that apathy was gutted out of a lack of faith in the system to deliver on its promise of free and fair election. That was one. But it was also found in the knowledge that the political class, and I stretch the bound of credulity when I use the word political and class in relation to the ruiners of Nigeria. It became evident to the people that regardless of which one of the parties happens to be in power, nothing ever changes about the lot of the people. It remained poor, it remained brutish, insecurity was normal. Whoever was in power, there was never going to be power. So the only thing that was certain for the Nigerian was that regardless of which one of the many political parties might be in power at any point in time, nothing was going to change. So in the midst of this, the Nigerians were generally disenchanted and disconnected from the system. In 2015, or in the lead up to the 2015 election, you had a coalition of men. I used to call them the thinking thieves and the unthinking thieves. The thinking thieves were generally those who were governing the state of Lagos. There is always a pretense that some work was being done. They would paint the bad roads, and they did a pretty good job of holding the press, influencing the press to give the impression that something was being done. So they were the thinking thieves. They would at least have a genuine budget, even though they would merely put the budget headings, and they would spend the money without doing the work. They would paint dilapidated buildings. They would build roads that do not exist. They will concession public properties without regard. They were the thinking thieves. They were the AC. And then you had the unthinking thieves who had 16 years in power and really didn't care much about anything, any thoughts. They didn't pretend that they were stealing. They were simply stealing. And in 2015, with the promise of change, the Nigerian people were deceived. The All Progressive Congress was formed, but the only thing progressive about that party has been the progression in stealing and the putrefaction of the Nigerian people. The complete dissipation of hope and the almost total loss of any illusion that Nigeria would be kept together without radical changes taking place. It took 7 years for the Nigerian people to come to the realization of the fact that something new had to happen. And that something new was what you saw in the lead up to the 2023 elections. The people of Nigeria took a decision to change things. So I come to the second part of what I've been asked to speak to. What happened? A coalition of the disadvantaged in Nigeria came together When I say coalition, I'm speaking specifically to all the victims of Nigeria across the length and breadth of Nigeria. Because those who have benefited from the ruination of Nigeria come from across the length and breadth of Nigeria. They are not divided by ethnicity. They are not divided by religion, and they couldn't care less sometimes even about gender. They are united in their purpose, and their singular purpose is the ruination of Nigeria to their own benefits and to the benefits of those who have aided them in the ruination of Nigeria. So what happened was that those who have for long been disadvantaged by the Nigerian mess began to realize the commonalities of their afflictions. And in the lead up to that election, several persons across the length and breadth of Nigeria, not even working together or in concert with each other, found commonalities. So a lot of us went out there and were convincing the people to go out and register to vote. The fact that the Nigerian state had exposed itself shamelessly on October 20, 2020 at Lekki Toll Gate, where it shamelessly murdered an untold number of Nigerian youth, helped to mobilize the youth to become interested in the election. Because in the absence of the legitimacy of protests, peaceful protests, with the government making it clear that it has no shame or even any restraint about killing Nigerians, and the international community shamelessly looking on whilst this was happening without saying a word. And when it said anything, it merely whimpered in your parliament in Britain here. Togenad was busy telling us about how Gowon brought half of Nigeria's treasury to this country, telling us that Britain was effectively a recipient of stolen property. So that's another ballgame entirely. But the point is that we came to the realization of the fact that we are the ones who are going to have to sort out our own mess. So across the length and breadth of Nigeria, people got together in the knowledge that they had to do something. And they began to form little cells. And this happened on the 25th of February. Bola Ahmed Tinubu could not get 20% of the votes in Lagos State. That was what happened. That is a fact. No amount of oro that they might carry, and that man sat there wearing hat, pretending not to be here. Rosemary of Tinubu. He was the one who forced them to start carrying oro. That was the extent of their fear. That was the fear. They were so afraid by the result they saw on the 25th of February that they were ashamed to bring out all manner of tribal and ethnic divisions, religious divisions, all manner of hatreds were weaponized in broad daylight. The diplomatic community were there. Unashamedly, some of you in the diaspora were busy clapping this nonsense on. And I look at all of you and I wonder, how do you complain or speak or condemn racism if you, in your own country, if you in your own country cannot see another person as a wedge? That was what happened in Nigeria. So when you ask what happened, that was what happened. The people found the commonalities of their affliction and they delivered a crushing defeat to the ruling APC on the 25th of February. And after that happened, what then happened? INEC, under Professor Yakubu Mahmoud. These people will remember his name, but will not remember him for good. Because what he did is out there in the public space. Those who wish to deodorize the skunk might call it any other thing. But the truth of the matter is that the man in question most shamelessly compromised the integrity of Nigerian election. I was up and I witnessed the election. I voted around 8:43 on the day, PM. The election tallied at my polling unit around 1:43 a.m. My fellow residents in my neighborhood brought generators, candles, and everything to ensure that INEC was able to do its job. Everybody did their job. The Nigerians, every one of us who did our job. The only people who failed us, INEC. That was what happened. So they now told me, said, so what will happen? To know what will happen, we have to address the fundamentals that His Excellency mentioned in passing. And fundamentals are important. I'm a Yoruba man. The Yoruba nation is a very old one. It precedes the Nigerian nation. And it's probably as old as the English. I'm proud to say that. My mask that is in your museum here, it's back before Christ. So let's be clear about that. And one of our fundamental proverbs says this. He says, you say to the crippled, your load is imbalanced. And he says, why are you looking to the load on my head? Why don't you address the imbalance at the base? What will happen? I'll tell you. Nigeria is not possessed of a constitution. You know, His Excellency was busy talking about the sanctity of the constitution. Nigeria is not possessed of a constitution. Nigeria is governed by a decree. It is known as Decree 24 of 1999. It was the parting gift of the military junta that rules Nigeria. The constitution of Nigeria does not flow from the will of the Nigerian people. So the Nigerian is essentially not a citizen. He is a subject. Citizenship does not fall on your lap. It's a function of evolution. The British evolved their citizenship. And you have to go back into the Magna Carta, dating back to, I think, 10 something. I'm not sure. I think it's about 10. I'm not sure that it's been a long time since I took courses in jurisprudence, but I do know that the basis of English or British citizenship is in the Magna Carta. It restrains the powers of the king and it forces him to be accountable for his powers. Every power given by law is limited by law. When a power is given by law and is unlimited by law, it simply means that that society is ungoverned by law. Nigeria is not governed by law. We might pretend that it is, and we have done fantastically well for the last 24 years, pretending that we are a democracy that is governed by law. But Yorubas also say that when a house is calm, it is because the bastard in the house is not grown up. When the bastard is matured, the house is going to be upside down. What has happened is that the monster in the Nigerian household has grown up and has now become fully fledged. That constitution has always been a lie because it does not flow from the will of the people. It is a military imposition. That military imposition is what has come full circle. And the people now have to decide whether they are happy to live with the lie that is called the Constitution and the monster that it has battered that is called a democracy, but is more fittingly called a democracy. That is on one hand. What will happen? I'm not going to threaten you with the refugee problem. You want it. That's the truth. The British and the rest of the West, the entire world economy is predicated on the assumption of African slavery. I'm sorry to say, but that is the reality. If we ever got our acts together in Nigeria, our best and brightest would not be in this country, slaving away at jobs that some of your people will not even take. We have brain drain, a major brain drain in my country. But you are the recipient and beneficiary of the very best and brightest of my countrymen. We send our children to come to school in your country and we train them at great expense. The money spent in Britain and other countries every year to train Nigerian children will be sufficient to fix all the problems in our educational system. But I just read that the Nigerian government has declared that it is incapable of sponsoring tertiary education. Question is, how many of the children of the Nigerian middle class, including myself, are to be found schooling within Nigeria? That is by design. It has taken our money to prop up the economy of the West. The idiocy of our rulers have assured that your countries are rich whilst we have remained poor. So I'm not here to ask Britain to help us. I don't expect you to help us. I expect no help. But I am here to let those of you who live in this country, Nigerians, who live here, you need to get up to the idea that you have been blessed and fortunate enough to escape the mess in our country, and you are here. You are in a society that works to an extent. It might not always be this, but it's working currently. Where we can talk, you can. When they might hold us down in Nigeria, you can force their partners here who pretend to care about us but do not really give anything. Because I'll remind you, and I'll round up with this because I realize I'm close to 20 minutes now. In the immediate aftermath of the NSAS protest, I was asked to attend a meeting with the Western diplomat. And after the meeting, I sat down. I was trying to figure out exactly what the meeting was all about. And I realized that they were just worried about what we were likely to do and how it might affect their own business interests in Nigeria. So I realized that beyond the platitudes that might be offered by any Western or foreign powers, it is entirely up to us to find the solutions to our problems. So thank you for having these in Britain, since they are the ones who created the original mess called Nigeria. But solving the problem called Nigeria is entirely a Nigerian undertaking. How we do it is entirely dependent on us. But do not look to the British or to any part of the West for our solutions. It is entirely in our own hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, can we have another round of applause for Dele, Farotimi, please? Thank you very much, sir. I've heard so much about Constitution from Your Excellency and from Dele, Farotimi. I don't know if we know that Nigeria, as a nation, we have had 9 constitutions, 9, written for that country. And of the 9, when I heard Your Excellency say, we the people, our constitutions begin with we the people. Go and get a copy of the constitution. But do you know what? We the people are not included when these constitutions are written. They just write and dump on us. As a matter of fact, let me tell you briefly about this constitution. The first one was written by a chap called Clifford in 1922. Richard's constitution was written in 1946. Macpherson constitution was written in 1951. Littleton constitution was written in 1954. And an independent constitution was written in 1960, where we had the Queen as the titular head of state for Nigeria. Yes? And then we had the 1963 constitution. All of these constitutions were written, not one we the people were involved in the writing of the constitution. And then we had the 1993 one and 1999, which was a fiat by the military. They said, you like to take it. And that's what we're still using today. That's why I think it was Your Excellency who said Decree 43. No, it was the Decree 24. That's what we have. So, we are hearing the messages, sir. Your Excellency, thank you very much. And thank you, Dele, Farotimi. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a slight change in our order of the program. I know many of you don't have the program, but on the high table here, they have the program. Please, and please, and please, if you believe in that new Nigeria, don't stand up and leave this hall. You have to listen to what these excellent people, you know, our principal keeps saying that if you call yourself excellency, then the process under which you go there is going to be excellent. Yes, and these are excellent people, I can tell you that. We all know that. So I'm going to surprise the high table by skipping to Priscilla Mwipo. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Priscilla Mwipo to the high table. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Your Excellency, good afternoon. Good afternoon, my fellow panelists, and good afternoon to you all that have taken the time to make it. What a privilege, what an honor to stand before you, even more so to even speak today. For me, it's an especially very special privilege. Some of you will know that if you're familiar with my work. Today is a great day for me. It's a mighty great season. So I was asked to speak on the subject matter, the unsaid words, the greatest threats to democracy. For me, that's very simple. So I'm going to take us to 2013. In 2013, here in London, we were all having so many conversations about Nigeria, how we wanted to make changes. We gathered, that was before Zoom, so we gathered in person, here, there, and everywhere. And I remember one day, I came home and I just thought, we're constantly doing this. Some people are talking about, let's put up a website. Others are saying, let's do that. And I came home, I said, Father, what do we do? How are we going to do this? And I just heard, start from the beginning. What is the beginning? The Constitution. And I was thinking, are you for real? Anyway, I was working with Ben Television, as some of us know. So I got into the office and I approached Alistair Shirley, the CEO. And I said, sir, I have an idea. Can we discuss the Constitution on TV, on a weekly basis? I didn't want to do it myself. I wanted to find someone else to do it. And he said, you have to do it. And I said, okay, but I have no funding. And he said, so I said, can I have some time? He said, if you don't do it now, I'll take away the airtime. I thought it was a joke. So I carried myself, I prepared myself the very next week. I got me a constitutional lawyer based here. She used to teach that in Nigeria. She very graciously agreed to come. And on a weekly basis, we discussed the content of the Constitution. So guess what happened? Nigerians will call in and Nigerians will say, Priscilla, that Constitution, we the people didn't gather. So what difference does it make? Others will say, well, so what do you want us to do now that you've given us this information? I will have engineers, doctors, all manners of Nigerians call in because it was a live program. They would dismiss me. They would tell me whatever they wanted to tell me. Others will say, okay, so you mean this or you mean that? You mean this is in the Constitution, you mean that's in the Constitution? And I said, yes, it is in our Constitution. And one of the things I said to everybody was, it is our primary governing instrument. So whether we were there, we were not there, it is what they say they are using to rule us. So if you want to make changes, you need to understand what it says, and you need to be able to understand it, because if they are standing on it, you need to be able to use it yourself and stand on it. Without it, we're wasting time. I've often been dismissed. So that brings me to my point today. The greatest threats to democracy. We define democracy, at least when I was at school, democracy for the people, by the people, of the people, right? In the Nigerian case, our greatest threat is the people. The people because we don't participate. We don't participate because we do not understand the tenets of democracy. We don't understand the tenets of democracy, we fold our arms. We fold our arms and we watch. We do not dare to hold any of our leaders to account. Because as far as we are concerned, they are the senior man, he holds a position. I'm regarded as, I've been called all kinds of things because I ask questions that people are uncomfortable with. So if I dare to ask a question, I am a woman, who does she think she is? She's so rude, she's stubborn, she thinks she's better than everybody. Those are just some of the terms. And of course, when we come to the Nigerian groceries, then she's a prostitute, don't mind her. I have, amongst my peers, they will say, "Oh, Priscilla, why would you ask such a question?" And I would say, are we okay here? Is your head functioning accordingly? What have I said that is not in the public domain? What are we afraid of? I don't need to insult anybody, I don't need to abuse anybody, but I should be able to ask a question. I am not asking because I want to humiliate or embarrass you. I am asking because it's necessary. But I've been called names for it. That's one aspect of how we fail ourselves. We fail our society. We fail our families. We fail the country. We are the greatest threat. Because of our lack of interaction with what our rules are, with what we're supposed to interact, we don't question because we were brought up to respect. And as soon as somebody holds a position, we dare not question them. So even when we come to faraway Obodo Yibo, as we will say, we take that with us in the abroad. Whilst we're here in the United Kingdom and the United States, we understand democracy and the tenets of democracy, and we know what to expect when we ask all the questions. But when our Nigerian politicians come into town, we revert and we bow and we dare not ask questions. We are the problems. Because we are that threat to democracy, our democracy ensures that we continue to choose leaders that has zero consideration for our interest. And we're so bound by us, our beliefs, our tribal associations, and what we're going to get, our greed and our corruption, that we choose these leaders as long as it's our tribe's person. I remember in 2015, God, I came under all kinds of fire. I once lost an opportunity because somebody said she's a member of PDP, and they all agreed, simply because, as far as I was concerned, I didn't believe in the change that was being offered in 2015. I didn't see it. A lot of us here, we joined forces, just like Dele told us earlier, and we broke the law. We broke our own constitution when we said it was okay for somebody to assume a position that they didn't qualify for. We've been doing it 2015. You go back as far as our wonderful democracy, we've been constantly saying you can't hold the office. We're happy to break our constitution, it's not a problem. We're okay with it. Suddenly today, we're no longer okay with that. And we expect them to clap for us, to say, oh yeah, sure, just take it and walk away. No, they're not. So our leadership is a problem because we created it. The other problem we have is a question of trust. We don't have trust. Our problem with trust is not just from the fact that we break our own constitutions, we choose the worst leaders or whatever else it is. It goes a little deeper than that. Our issues with trust, we don't trust one another. We live in a world where the structures are such that it prevents us from being able to see each other as one, work together. We don't give each other the same benefit of the doubt that we might give somebody else a different race. And that runs right deep, even when we're back in Nigeria, when we're speaking about the issues of Nigeria. So the question of trust is big. Thus, right now, even though I believe that we're at that point today where Nigeria is changing, whether we like it or yes. I'm about to say something that might offend some men in the room, but please don't take it personal. I'm just going to state some of the things I hear over and over and over, and it's often from young men. And that's because they've lost hope. And they say to me, Priscilla, Nigeria is too difficult to govern. And then I ask them, why? Is it because we all have two heads? They say, democracy cannot work in Nigeria. I say, why wouldn't it work in Nigeria? We're not human beings. What's the difference? Why do you have such little value for yourself that you don't believe in the change, that you can make the change? So I'm not the only one speaking here today. So I'm going to try and round up. Because we lack understanding of what the tenets of democracy is. We don't understand that our institutions can still work in our favor. And right now, everybody has given up to an extent. I have to say something. First of all, I don't belong to any political party, not even here in the United Kingdom. I used to vote a certain way. And then when I realized that actually they weren't really interested in me, I stopped voting for them. And I started voting for a much smaller party because I checked out their policies and I liked it. And people were saying, but they're never gonna win. I can't give my vote to something I don't believe in. So, when we begin to understand the tenets of democracy, when we begin to stand up, I have to give credit to the obedience. The obedience are making my dreams come true. I have to salute every obedience out there, because as far as I'm concerned, my dreams are coming true. Every Monday, some of you may have heard me on the radio, may have heard me on TV. You know I always stand alone, and I don't care who likes it, who doesn't, who's gonna attack me, who's not gonna attack me. I say what I say because I think it needs to be said. So right now, we are practicing democracy, believe it or not. Democracy is being practiced for the first time, at least in my own, since I've lived in the United Kingdom for plenty many years. And over the last, say, 10 or so, I've been more and more involved or interested and connecting with Nigeria and Nigerian politics. And so over this period of time, I can tell you that we're actually starting to practice democracy. How are we doing that? The obedience are standing up. They're asking questions. The obedience are, my greatest joy on a daily basis is just going on Twitter and just reading the conversations about the petitions that are being put up, are being discussed. We're discussing our constitution for a change. We're discussing aspects of the law. We're discussing whether or not this works and that doesn't work. And that's what we should have been doing all of this while. Because if we were, we wouldn't be here. However, I do think we needed to go through the Buhari in order for us to be here. Had we continued to have it as we had before, we wouldn't be here. So today we're finally engaging with our constitution. We're finally questioning our constitution. We're finally realizing that it gives you something with one hand, it takes it away with the other. If there's one profession after pastoral that is very common in Nigeria, lawyers. But how do? We seldom engage with the things we need to engage with. So when we understand that nobody's going to fight for us, when we understand that for Nigeria to change, we have to make those changes, when we understand that in order for us to have the new Nigeria of our dreams, it takes me, it takes you, it takes our children, it takes every Nigerian that we know standing together in oneness. Forgive me, I'm about to say something, and I'm probably going to upset a few people, but I don't get it. For the first time in our election process, we actually had viable candidates, right? Whether it was Kwankwaso, Peter Obi, we actually had viable candidates. This is what I don't understand. How can educated Nigerians, we're very quick to announce how many degrees that goes from here to there, we never stop studying, eminent Nigerians say to their fellow educated Nigerians that we should tell the man that we're told came third, who's happy to go to court, but we're being told to go, the guy with the longest rap sheet that I've ever come across, nothing makes sense. Every day there's an addition, and it's not good. There are no real explanations, there are no denials, there are no nothing. So it's fair to say we can accept it to be what it is. But you have eminent, highly educated Nigerians that will be so quick to shove their many degrees down your throat if you dare to not reach them properly. Say, let's beg the guy that came third, that has a clean record, so that we can all submit to this rapture. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I will never understand it. I will never understand it. If there was an explanation for it, maybe somebody make it make sense to me. It does not make sense. For highly eminent, educated people, I'm concerned by that. I don't know about you all, but I'm concerned about that. We did it in 2015. We did, remember? And if we do it again, we're breaking the Constitution by ourselves. If we stand together, if we do what the obedience are doing, the obedience are holding everybody to account. The obedience are speaking directly. Listen, I remember one day, it was during the Bring Back Our Girls. I was at the Foreign and Commonwealth office. I was sitting there for a meeting, and we broached off into a conversation about how they had reached out for Nigeria to help. They wanted to help. I looked at them and said, why do you need to help? I said, look, we're old enough. We should be able to take care of our problems. If we're not old enough, if we're not capable of taking care of our problems and we have an issue, it's not for the British to step in. Everybody's face just kind of changed because that wasn't what they were expecting me to say. So as Dele said, he doesn't believe in calling the British to come and help. I'm sure some of you have heard me. It gets on my last nerves when I see Nigerians doing that. However, one thing I will say is that in the time and the season that we're in, I'm starting to see this a little differently. Let's not beg. Let's put them on notice that we don't like what's happening in our country and we don't want that to continue. Because I think when we put them on notice and they realize that there are so many of us who are aware, because one of the other things that is a great threat to democracy is when people have no knowledge of what's going on. when the powers that be understand that you and I are not concerned, we're not interested, we don't know what they're doing, we're not paying attention. They make changes. It's happening right now here in the United Kingdom as you and I speak, since COVID. Laws are being made under our very nose and eyes, and we don't know. It's taking away our liberty. But most of us are dead to it, so they're getting away with it. The democracy we think we're enjoying here, it will take the grace of God if we're not all prisoners very soon. But the good thing is, we're putting everybody on notice to say, we don't want this in Nigeria. And as long as we can continue with that, the more voices that are raised on a daily basis, whether it's to retweet something, whether it's to add your voices to the call, we don't want this. We have to do it publicly because then they get the message. The people are awake because that's what this is, an awakening. So I'm going to round off because I think I've overspoken. And I just want to say that we can no longer make excuses. We can't come this far and go back. I've read that petition. I've read the various petitions. And I've never come across such a strong petition before the Nigerian judiciary. Make no mistakes, change is here. And we must all remember this. It is our problem. I say this every Monday evening. I would have said it tonight if I was back there in good time. I say it every Monday evening on a little radio program. It's our problem. Oh, let me tell you something else about that program. So in 2015, we fought ferociously. They fought me, I fought back. They told me I didn't know what I was talking about. I told them what this administration will be for each and every one of us. And I left them with this. I said, I just hope. I said, my sadness is we're all going to suffer in it. And I just hope that we'll be able to recover. Some said, we don't care if it's a dog. They told me that live on air. They said they didn't care. So here we are today. That program used to be so active. Everybody used to call in and we'd be talking back and forth. They can't call in. People are too embarrassed. I don't bite. They're too embarrassed to call in. They feel that, they can't engage with me because they can't get over the fact that it is happening. Just as I said. And they've lost so much that some of them, their lives, some of them, lives of their relatives, some of them, everything they ever owned. Recovery is tough for them. So they don't call back anymore, but they listen quietly. So I'm just going to stop there and say that it's our problem. We can fix it. Let's do that. Thank you for listening.
Please, another round of applause for Priscilla Amico. And some of us remember one word manufactured by the Nigerian politician. They call teamship. Beautiful word. And somebody asked the question that led to that teamship. And I want to salute the last speaker because you know who asked, how are you going to fix it? He said, I'm going to do it. Teamship. A round of applause for this. And she said, the unsafe things, that's the most dangerous thing. Whenever they're telling you, don't go there, don't go there. Why are we running away from the facts? I know some of us, the movie watchers, there's one film called A Few Good Men. General, you're not telling us the truth. The truth is I cannot handle the truth. Can we handle the truth? I think the obedient have been able to see the truth and they're handling it. A round of applause for them.
I know some people that spent about 3 million naira to travel just to cast one vote. Nigerians are participating. It's time. The real change is the one we are getting. Please help me welcome our beloved brother. They call him GRV. It's popular because he did what people never thought was possible. And I want to call him to come and just complete people. That stood firmly against tyranny. He lost his followers, standing firmly and not giving. Thank you. They call him Chill. I don't know where you have the name.
But I'm very happy to be here. And I thank you, first of all, for getting involved, for choosing to see this as our problem. And once we've identified what the problem is, we are at least halfway towards getting a solution. So I thank you for choosing not to play ostrich the way generations before us have, and have given us this problem which we now have to solve. So thank you, thank you, thank you. For me, I feel that this election, I cannot be more proud of the generation that I went into this election with. This is my third election. The first I contested for local government chairman under Koa Party. And I remember I would go and talk to people and you ask them how many people are registered and less than 10% of the whole had voter cards. And then you see a remarkable jump where people decided that we were no longer leaving politics to politicians. You had a situation where young people were mobilizing by themselves without being mobilized. You had a situation where, October 1st, we shook Nigeria. And this was done without any massive mobilization of funds or resources. So whatever, and like His Excellency said, democracy and this journey is not something that is gotten easy, right? When the Herbert Macaulay started fighting for independence, it was not his generation that experienced the benefits of it or the actual recovery and independence of the Awolowos and the Nnamdi Azikiwes. So it's a journey. The most important thing is what we're doing now, which is persistence, consistency, staying on the ball, not going into the dark quietly. And that's what they want. They want you to stop tweeting, they want you to go on holiday, they want you to be quiet. But that's not going to happen. And I'm going to say that I want you to be encouraged. We made history, right? We brought back the idea that ideas matter in politics. We brought back the notion that integrity, competence, and capacity matters. It's no longer about how many dogs you have or how much you can use to buy votes, right? And that's never going to be erased out of the streets. What we now need to do is increase our self-influence. Because more than anything now, more and more people are empathetic towards the Labour Party, towards this idea movement, this idea of, we want people that don't have baggage, we want people that will vote for, don't have to hold our nose or ignore their crimes, right? And this is only going to get bigger. Because more and more people are going to be inspired to come out and participate in elections that would not normally have come out before. Because now there's a huge group of people that want their leader to be somebody they can be proud of. And that's not going to change. When the mind has been expanded, it cannot go back to its previous size. People have seen it, they know what quality leadership sounds like, what quality leadership feels like. You cannot take that back, right? So we are the now, we are the future. And when we talk about democracy, yes, I understand the flaws of our constitution. And yes, I understand the flaws of the entire process and everything that has happened. But for me, I always make decisions based on hope. And more than anything, I've seen people stand up. Mr. Farotimi said, they have started talking about Oro on the Tuesday before the election on Saturday. When they moved the election, the Oba postponed the Oro. If you are not Yoruba, you might not, if you are not Yoruba, I will come to you. And yes, my name is very much new, but I did not tell anyone or add anyone. Unlike some, we actually have a birth certificate. So, but what I would say is that if you know about Oro is a rite that used to cleanse the land, and it's done at night. And it's only engaged the people that belong to the Oro cult are the only ones that can see it. So when you see traditional institutions doing something during the day, you realize the extent of their desperation. You know? And even with all of that, people still came out. And these people were not bought. I mean, I'm coming from a party where millions of dollars are shared the night before. They've put all the money in the local government, who are coming, they're taking their own. This did not happen. It did not happen. So, for the first time, we're starting to get to a situation where equations are balanced in the sense of, okay, the typical people that come out to harvest their voters card every 4 years, get their money, and the people that actually want a Nigeria, a better country, they are now coming out. So the equation is starting to be balanced. And I tell people, the best kept secret is the people that want a better Nigeria far outweigh and outnumber the ones that want to collect. That's right. They just need to see a viable candidate that they can believe in that will take the country where they need to go. And they found that in this election. That's why it's the kind of numbers that we got. So for me, we have gone to court. I believe that we have very good cases. And even, let's even say, for some reason, you know, I was with Sections Hospital before I came, spent about an hour together. I said, don't travel out of this country for too long. People must be seeing you, they be feeling you, going out and all. So this is not the politics of you go and then come back, so and then, no, we are going for proper shadow government. We're going to be going at their policies while the court case is going on. And by God's grace, we'll still remain victorious in the court. But this is the thing. It's human beings that put these constitutions together with all its flaws. And it's human beings that are going to change it. We must make sure the human beings that change it are the ones that will put into office. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Please, another round of applause for GLB, please. Well, we told you that we had surprise speakers. And ladies and gentlemen, Valuable is one of our surprise speakers today. Please, another round of applause for him. Now, I said speakers, I didn't say speaker. So we've got another surprise for you. Now, before I introduce this surprise that is coming, I read an article, I think this was May, I think the article was published in April. I read it and I'm like, wow, this is huge. And what I did, I used my computer voice audio to read the message. Now, this message was about and when I finished that work at that time, I shared it with one of my friends, engineer Leonardo Bibi, and the man said, no, don't do this. Any publicity is good publicity. And I said, okay, I won't share it. But looking back, that was a big mistake. That was a huge mistake for a man who forfeited $460,000 in 1990, whatever. You know how much that is? The money just found its way into his account, and then, oh, it's not me, it's my account. I don't know how the money got there. Now, this article I'm talking about was written by a formidable journalist. This journalist, fortunate for us today, I'm proud to associate with this young man. He's here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please help us with a rounding applause. I know you know him. Please welcome David Ondane to the microphone.
Thank you. Don't have much speaking points, but we'll get through this. So, good afternoon. My name is Dele, and before I get started, I want to do a quick little piece of audience participation. So, with a show of hands, please indicate whether you've ever heard of the two following entities. So, the first is called the Korean Social Democratic Party. The second is called the Chondoist Chon Party. Have you ever heard of it? Well, neither had I until a few months ago. In case you're wondering, these are both political parties in Korea. North Korea. Yes, elections are held in North Korea. North Korea holds elections every 4 years. Something similar happens in China, which is also a one-party state, but it holds parliamentary elections every 5 years. Why am I mentioning this? Now, as many of you may know, I'm a journalist who fled Nigeria in 2020, and I currently live under refugee protection as a result of the work that I do. And whenever I talk about my work with people who are not really that familiar with Nigeria, the question they always ask, why? It's not that they think I'm lying, it's that they don't really understand what it is about Nigeria that would lead to this kind of outcome. On the surface, Nigeria doesn't fit the profile of what you'd expect your stereotypical African, authoritarian states to look like. We regularly hold elections. In fact, we just held them. We have a thriving private media space. We have constitutionally defined separation of powers. We have our 99 Constitution defines freedom of expression and freedom of association as inalienable human rights. We have an independent National Electoral Commission. We even have a Freedom of Information Act. So on the surface, we tick most of the boxes that lead us to be classified in theory as an electoral democracy. This is what I call performance democracy. Now, in 14 days' time, despite the simulacrum of democracy that we've put together in Nigeria, the country's political establishment is preparing to swear in as its president a drug criminal who has broken just about every electoral law in existence, lost the election, and somehow also provoked a race war along the way. So clearly something is wrong here. If democracy is defined as government of the people, for the people, by the people, then a presidential candidate who was emphatically rejected by the people at the polls, whose age is 4 times the median age of Nigeria, so clearly this person is not demographically representative of the Nigerian population, and who believes that the presidency is his manifest destiny because it's his turn. How exactly is that democratic? The answer, of course, is that merely holding an election, something that closely resembles an election, only for it to announce a predetermined winner, regardless of what people have to say about it, is not democracy or anything close to it. As I mentioned when I started, even North Korea and China hold elections. There's nothing special about elections. In fact, North Korea's official name is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. But certainly none of you would suggest that the fact that it calls itself democratic and it holds elections makes it a democracy. Now, while other speakers will no doubt focus on the fallout of the disgraceful spectacle that we witnessed 3 months ago, that Nigeria's political establishment described euphemistically as an election, I'll only summarize my thoughts on those issues into the following brief points so that I can move on to something else that I want to talk about now. And these are the brief points. Now, as an investigative journalist with a key career focus on state capture, financial crime, and transnational crime, including cross-border drug and human trafficking, much of my work over the past year has comprehensively established that Mr. Bola Tinubu, supposed INEC president-elect, has in fact previously been involved in the trafficking of Southeast Asian heroin during his time in the city of Chicago, USA. Federal court records from the Eastern Division of the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois clearly states that in 1993, Mr. Tinubu was forced to forfeit funds totaling $460,000 to the US government, being an asset forfeiture for illegal narcotics trafficking. Now, going further than the court records that were on file using subpoenas and FYA frameworks, I was also able to establish that Mr. Tinubu has told multiple lies about his background and committed multiple perjuries on his INEC EC9 declaration. The multiple lies told by Mr. Tinubu about his actual identity, his professional and educational background, and the obvious falsehoods presented on his presidential declaration form, including what I thought was the funniest thing of all, a blatantly forged Chicago State University certificate that had grammatical errors on it, which is easily traceable to a cheap online forgery service called diplomamakers.com. Make it clear that Mr. Tinubu is legally and morally unfit for office. Now, the illegality of declaring Mr. Tinubu the winner in the small hours of the morning at 4 a.m. when everyone was asleep, without any actual evidence of this supposed victory, an outcome that was not supported by any credible poll, and which INEC's own emerging data continues to contradict, makes a mockery of the credibility of Nigeria's Electoral Commission and calls into question the basic credibility of the electoral process. Now, a few weeks ago, as part of the testimony that I delivered to a UK parliamentary inquiry on a separate issue, I was asked to state what I believe the UK and its international partners should do about the situation in Nigeria, what I believe the consequences would be if these actions are not taken. Now, I know several of my co-speakers here have spoken very pointedly about the fact that the UK is not going to help, and the UK should not be viewed as the go-to entity here, but nonetheless, I was asked for my opinion, and I gave an answer, and this is what I said. So the following is an excerpt from the answer that I gave. I said, the international community needs to impose sanctions on individuals and organizations that have played and are playing key roles in destroying democracy in Nigeria through electoral practice and media narrative astroturfing and propaganda that assists the unapologetically fascist position being adopted by the ruling regime. In a manner similar to the targeted sanctions adopted against senior members of Zimbabwe's ZANU-PF regime for violating the human rights of Zimbabweans, senior figures in Nigeria's executive, legislative, and judiciary should be made to face targeted economic and travel sanctions that would bar them from doing business, owning property, or seeking healthcare in countries like the UK. These sanctions should also be extended to family members of sanctioned individuals, preventing them from acting as their economic proxies and from obtaining healthcare or education in these countries. If no action is taken, my assessment is that Nigeria as a whole will become fundamentally destabilized when the sharp divide between the leadership and the people becomes impossible to mitigate or work around. Demographically, Nigeria is already one of the most divided countries on earth, with a national median age of just 18.1 years old, alongside an aged, incompetent, out-of-touch leadership class, typified by the incoherent octogenarian who is currently prepped to illegally assume the country's highest office later this month. Willfully ignoring the clearly expressed will of the Nigerian people will inevitably lead to social unrest and instability, especially among the youth who are disproportionately affected by the problems that this very class of wannabe dictators created. This was a very important part of my submission, and I want you to listen. This kind of chaos has already been foreshadowed in parts of urban Nigeria over the past 4 years. These events are now remembered individually as the reprisal attacks against South African businesses in 2019 because the so-called 1 million boys gun violence during the COVID-19 lockdown in 2020 and the NSAS protest later in the same year. But when examined in context, they are not standalone events. They are a growing pattern, each one more serious than the last. If the pattern persists, we will not be considering a Nigerian civil conflict or a West African regional crisis, but a major global humanitarian catastrophe will engulf Africa and Europe. It is important to remember that essentially all of Nigeria's 200 million residents are basically 2 national borders and 1 British Mediterranean crossing away from Europe. The total destabilization of a country with that many people, a stone's throw away from Lampedusa and Calais, would fundamentally reshape Africa, Europe, the UK, possibly the entire world as we know it, not in a good way. So those are my words to Parliament a few weeks ago. And I have an addendum. It is that if the UK actually has a commitment to promoting democracy in Nigeria and promoting good leadership in Nigeria the way it says it does, then we need to demonstrate that commitment by refusing to allow the very kleptocrats and criminals who subvert Nigeria's democracy from obtaining political legitimacy here, parking their money here. A few days ago, a Bloomberg investigation exposed the existence of the Nigerian state's corruption enterprise involving the proceeds of oil funds, which were laundered through the purchase of a mansion here in London. The buyer of said property turned out to be the son of President-elect, who at the ripe old age of 31, and without any substantial or well-defined source of income, somehow paid $11 million cash for the mansion on Grove End Road, a few miles north of here. Now, we can hold all the parliamentary inquiries we want, we can host press conferences like this from now till cows come home, but actions will always speak louder than words. If the UK, through its silence or inaction, demonstrates that its stated commitment to entrenching democracy and promoting good leadership in Nigeria is just talk, well, the reality is that if and when Nigeria's youthful population eventually finds its way in the world, potentially becomes a larger trading and diplomatic partner, we will remember who our friends were in our times of adversity. In the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Now, my final words are aimed directly at the elements in Nigeria's political, judicial, and security establishment who, if they are not central to it, are enabling this brazen attempt to end all meaningful democracy as we know it in Nigeria, because I know they're watching this. Now, 14 years ago, in 2009, I remember I was watching TV and there was a breaking story that came on, and it was this story about some Nigerian guy who tried to blow up transatlantic flights using plastic explosives sewn into his underwear. It became an internet meme at the time, the underpants bomber. Now, at the time, as Nigerians, I was in university and I was in University of Hull. There was a bit of a fallout there. His cousin also happened to be at the University of Hull. His cousin wasn't able to come back to the UK because he traveled for Christmas. But at the time, to us, all we were worried about was maybe like potentially there'll be a bit more visa scrutiny, maybe some people will refuse visas. But the concept of a Nigerian suicide bomber was just so unheard of to us that it became material for like Facebook viral comedy videos and basketball punchlines at 90,000 laughs. Imagine a whole Nigeria blowing himself. Nigerians that love life so much. It was very fun. And then in 2011, it happened again. This time in Abuja, 27 people died. Then it happened again in Madala, it happened in Kadaka, it happened in Damaturu, it happened in Jos, it happened in Maiduguri, and it stopped being fun. The deaths piled into hundreds, and almost overnight, Nigerian suicide bomber went from being some sort of ethereal joke punchline to becoming a very real thing that we saw on pages of Punch and manga newspaper. Those Facebook viral videos from 2009 stopped loading. The comedian stopped mentioning suicide bomber. Now, why am I telling you this story? The thing about established orders is that they count on their own inertia. They don't believe that things can or will never actually change until they do. Legend has it that during the fall of Rome, right at the moment when the barbarians were overrunning the gates of the city's legislators were locked in a debate on the subject. If a fly falls into holy ointment, is the ointment then tainted, or does the fly become holy? And then, of course, the barbarians broke in and the question didn't matter. The thing is, no matter how elastic a people might be, there is always a breaking point. You just haven't found that breaking point yet. If you've been paying attention, the signs are already there. I mentioned earlier that the 2019 and 2020 riots in Lagos, which came before EndSARS, were both parts of an escalating pattern. What I did not mention was that the next time young Nigerians hit the streets, they will do so fully expecting you to shoot them down as you did during EndSARS, which means that they will have nothing to lose, which makes them infinitely more dangerous. In case you still don't understand what the 2023 election was and is, you should see it as one final opportunity to exit relatively gracefully and leave the young people whom you have failed, hopefully, to clean up the mess that you created. That is all they've asked for with their votes, and you still have the opportunity to avoid making a bigger mess. It's not too late for you to make things right, but having said that, if history is any judge, we know what you're most likely to do. And if it happens that way, well, I've spent 10 minutes explaining how it will inevitably end for you, for us, for Nigeria. And we don't pray for it to happen, but if it does, maybe we'll host another press conference.
Wonderful young man. Every time I look at this young man, I see a future for Nigeria. Yes. Every time I look at this young man, I see a future for Nigeria. It reminds me, quite frankly, I don't want to talk about this country. This is my country as well. But it reminds me of people like Tony Blair, and every time I look at him, I say, yes, Nigeria has a future. I'm talking about future. There's a parent here who has been talking to his children about this conference and that Your Excellency, Senator Datti Ahmed is coming. And the children said, Daddy, you must take us there, you must take us there. So when he came to me and said, the children actually said, yes, they want to go and greet Your Excellency. I said, okay, I will have to, I need permission from the Excellency for them to come, but please, where are the kids? These are the future of our country. Please, parents, do this always to our children, the future of our country. They have a lesson at 5 o'clock and they left school, they are still in their school uniform. They left school that they want to meet Your Excellency. Please, all the paparazzis and photographers, please. And I think they are twins, by the way. Yes. Please, paparazzi, photos, please. Yes. 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 Wonderful children. Please, parents, let's do this to our children. The future for Nigeria is bright. It's really, really bright. And when I look at these children, I just see that light shining at the end of the tunnel for our nation. Yes. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Osita.
When I grow up, I want to be like Senator Datti that they are coming to greet. Can you go greet me, please? Please, you can greet me. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I think it's been a very warm session. True or false? We're discussing serious matters. There's something that happened during the military when they were having, world briefing, press briefing. And the leader who was making the speech didn't know he had jumped 2 pages. And the press started murmuring in the line. He said, but that is not a laughing matter. He didn't even know that he had jumped 2 pages in his speech. That is kind of tragedy of suffering. Because some speeches are written, and let's just carry it and be looking at it. Gone are the days of speeches that are written by other people. We have candidates who speak from their hearts. And that's why Nigerians follow them. And I ask myself again, hey, somebody won an election. The presidential candidate lost his state. The chairman lost his state. The president himself lost his state. The most viable cities in Abuja, in Nigeria, Abuja and Lagos, you lost it. So where are you popular? Have you asked yourself that? If you're not popular in Abuja, really, you're not popular because every Nigerian combines Lagos and Abuja. So I'm going to introduce our sister here, another lady who has done very well. You know that a lot of things happen at Chatham House. Nigerians have really been pushing. It's so unfortunate what leadership subjects Nigeria to. And the people who represent Nigeria here, including Senator Datti himself, they have been bullied, called all sorts of names because they wanted to do things right. And our sister here also has been taking a lot of jabs for trying to be fair, upright, challenging the status quo. And I know she's going to go places. Join me in welcoming Dr. Loretta Utomi.
Thank you very much to one of the most hardworking men I've met. Good afternoon, or is it evening now? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, and good afternoon to my fellow speakers on the high table. My name is Loretta Utomi, and I come from a state where we say that we share the 10th kingdom with the United Kingdom, Edo State. That's where you have the second kingdom in this world. And what pains me the most is that sometimes I have to take my daughter to the British Museum to see our own heritage as a people. But I have come to England and I have been a first generation migrant. And every day I give my best and my all to England, which is now my host country. I still remember what is happening in my own home nation, which is the source country for all forms of, would I call it labor in quotes, and even to a large extent, contemporary slavery. Because if you are here as a doctor, as a barrister, as a journalist, there is still that thing that happens, and you know that somewhere someone is making a glass. Do we want to abandon our home on the altar of our host nations? Or do we want to get our host nations galvanized so that they take the reins and actually help us fix our home nations? With that, I'm going to say a big well done to all those who have organized this conference today. I want to thank people who have traveled from afar and come here to come and actually amplify the voices of Nigerians. Has it crossed our minds that in every population there is a critical mass? That critical mass is very, very minuscule. That critical mass is tiny. Today, we have the critical mass of Nigeria in this room. And importantly, the critical mass drives the majority. So I'm telling us today that our 200 million strong population is actually depending on us to amplify their voices and let the world know what we know, what has happened. I've been asked to speak in this conference today about Nigeria's democracy being on trial. And specifically, I was told to speak of Nigeria in the labor room. The world is watching. I don't know if the organizers chose that term because they found a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist, or whether they just, were led by the spirit. But I will try and do it justice. In my experience as an obstetrician and gynecologist, pregnancy and labor are processes. However, they are processes that are physiological, and processes
that are manned by nature in a way that nature does not want anything to go wrong. That's the truth. Nature wants to achieve a decent pregnancy and a delivery where mother and child is alive and well. That's nature. And people look forward to pregnancy and labor with great expectations. However, since gaining our own independence in 1960 from the British, Nigeria has been pregnant. We've been pregnant with potentials and with promises. We've been pregnant with ideas. We've been pregnant with all the good things in our mind. But we've had an inertia to go into labor and beg and deliver this pregnancy. Through military coups and successive governments, we have underperformed. And all of these hydra-headed challenges have made our country to become one in a gestational state of growth restriction. However, enter 2023. And in 2023, what happened? Nigeria went into labor with the presidential election of February the 25th. It was a unique time in the history of our beloved country. For the second time in Nigeria's history, citizens were not seeing religious divide. Citizens were not seeing ethnic divide. Citizens were not seeing age divide. Citizens were united by a common front. Nigerians took their destinies in their own hands and we headed to the polls. The distinctive characteristics of 2023 is well documented in databases that are public. There was a swelling of all our registered voters. There was increased engagement. And even when I went to the polling unit, I saw my countrymen. I saw my countrywomen. What happened? They came with their water bottles. They came with their chargers. They came with musical instruments. They were determined to stay there and see the end of the counting. They believed in Ahmed. Nigerians have come to a realization of what my father always told me when I was growing up, that it is only Nigerians that can change Nigeria for Nigerians. We may have the help of other people. We may have them aid us, but we must overcome that inertia. We are in labor. We must bet our democracy. And Nigerians did not shy away from this. The world waited. The world looked. We looked forward to the betting and delivery of our true democracy with great expectations. Africa held her breath as the words of Nelson Mandela echoed in our hearts, that the world will not respect Africa until Nigeria earns respect. The Black people of the world need Nigeria to be great as a source of pride and confidence. But what happened? Alas, there was a midwife in this labor process. The process was supposed to be midwifed by an independent body, as their name is called, the Independent National Electoral Commission. However, this very same midwife scuttled the delivery of true democracy and created what we call in obstetrics and gynecology an obstruction in the labor process. The labor process had come to a halt due to no fault of the mother, in this case, Nigeria. Nor was the child not ready to be better. But somebody had put in an obstruction somewhere. Going by the results of many Nigerians like me and my sister here and everybody on this table, and many of the Nigerians who are watching everywhere in the world today, and those of us who may be field, Electoral materials were coming at 2 p.m. Egbon said it. Dele Farotimi. I was there in my polling booth. It came at about 1:30. Every step of the way, an obstacle was put to scuttle Nigerians. And then the promises of INEC, they came to naught. The portals for announcing results, transmission of results, all of them came to naught. A constitutional crisis has arisen just from the fact that the midwife in this whole process has decided not to entertain value for Nigerian lives. Yes. However, the birth of a new Nigeria is what we'll see in the obedient movement and the things that have been happening. It may be stalled, there may be an obstruction, but it cannot be aborted. No way. This new Nigeria is only being delayed. And today we look to the Nigerian judiciary to continue the midwifery process. They have now taken it away from those who were supposed to be independent, who were fully dependent. What they were dependent on, you can guess. A new Nigeria is going to arise. And today we are saying to the international community that they have a role to play. Some of us may disagree, but they do have a role to play. We cannot be some of the numbers that swell their biggest migrant workforce and they want to make life unbearable for our relatives at home. What will happen is that we will not provide proper services even in these countries. They will help us to magnify what it means for Nigerians to bet true democracy. They cannot be ostriches burying their necks in the sand in this process. The kind of true democracy that played itself out in December in this country. Our Prime Minister, Aisha Yesufu, was wishing this country Merry Christmas. And somebody pointed it out that he was not wearing his silk belt. The Constitution swung into action. Rishi Sunak was fined and Rishi Sunak paid the fine. Yes, that's correct. That is constitutional work. So why should we turn a blind eye? And I tweeted right back to my Prime Minister when he congratulated current governor at government select. I told him, we in Nigeria are pushing to have this kind of democracy where your people will tell you that, Prime Minister, you have breached the law. You apologize and you pay the fine. You brought us democracy. You must help us see to a logical conclusion. You cannot turn your face to the current constitutional crisis going on in Nigeria. The 200 million strong population of Nigeria are asking what has happened to the birthing of our mandate. And those of us who are going for sub-national government roles in Nigeria, the next dispensation in our states, are asking if this can happen at the presidential level, what hope do we have at the grassroots? To birth a new Nigeria into existence, the judiciary, we must look at the example where we find that there's the existence of the judiciary, there's the existence of the armed forces. And we should use these precedents because these bodies exist governed by our constitution. These bodies are vetted, not subject to constitutional interpretation. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody watching, the election of the president cannot be subject to interpretation either, but must strictly be provided for by the law as it is interpreted in our constitution. So, the labor room is being keenly watched by the whole world, this labor room of Nigeria, and our judiciary, who has taken over the battle to resolve the current constitutional crisis are being watched. They have to indeed rise up to this occasion. And the Western world, who plays host to most of Nigeria's migrant population, either legal or illegal migration as the case may be, will have a lot to lose if Nigerians are displaced, if Nigerians are not mentally stable. So they must build their searchlight on this constitutional process resolution that is going on by our petition. I will modify the words of JFK and say, he did tell us, he said, democracy is not perfect and freedom has got its difficulties. But all this same, we've never had to put up a wall to keep our people in. We are not going to put up a wall to keep in the betting process and the delivery of Nigeria's democracy. It may look like chaos right now. It may look like there's confusion, but out there to everybody, I'm going to say, keep hope alive. It is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And I'm going to leave us by explaining the story of the phoenix. The phoenix is a bird that rises out of chaos, mythology has it, and rises stronger than when the chaos started. It rises right out of the fire. The current fire we are having in Nigeria's labor room is actually distilling Nigeria. And like the phoenix, this idea whose time has come is going to be better and is going to rise up from all of these things. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. What a lady. Please, another round of applause for Dr. Loretta, please. Wonderful. Again, I will keep saying this. When I see people like Dr. Loretta, Aisha Yesufu, David, Badebo, I see people following Your Excellency behind. Your Excellency, we are winning this. We are winning, and we have heard you. We will not go there again. We'll go home. We have heard you. Thank you very much. Please start scribbling down your questions if you have any for this wonderful, excellent team. Very good. I like that. It's a wonderful team. These are our leaders. I will work, and I've been working fervently, selflessly for them. So I'll keep doing it. So start scribbling your questions and don't go. We have light refreshment for you guys. You know, when you come out through the double door to the left, you know, not for the Excellency, they don't eat that kind of one. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have a fiery lady I want to call right now. Your guess is as good as mine. When I first saw this woman on social media, I'm like, wow, who's this? And then she kept coming and coming and coming everywhere I saw her. I said, no, this is fire. This is fiery. And so far, she has not disappointed Nigerians. She has become the face of the new Nigeria that we all yearn for. So it is our pleasure tonight to have her with us. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Aisha Yesufu.
shake that child. What the? How can I do it? They don't say us because show them. Thank you. Yeah. So now I don't know how to program. They didn't see us coming. They didn't see us coming. They said 4 people cheating. We said no wahala. Out of those 4 people, now only 2. Now then they were up and down. Now the election team, they only 2. When they say they know they talk, the kukuma can't come out. Ladies and gentlemen, they are citizens. We are not slaves. We are citizens. We are not slaves. And Nigeria belongs to all of us. No Nigeria is more Nigeria. No region is more region. And we must have a country where the child of nobody can become somebody without knowing anybody. For those who do not understand, yesterday's victims were once survivors. Today's victims were yesterday's survivors. And tomorrow's victims will be today's survivors. The question we always ask is who is next? Who is next? And being a victim in Nigeria is not a matter of if. It's a matter of when. It is done by Done Nigeria Limited. Because there are people who think they have escaped. But you know what? Nigeria will wait. And that day when you come, I will show everyone when. You know, my brother was saying that for those who are lucky to escape. So it is in us to ensure that things work in Nigeria. And that was what the 2023 election was all about. I've been asked to talk on the issue of Nigeria on trial and that the people are the structure. Once upon a time, they told us that votes don't count. Even though people were told that if votes don't count, why do politicians buy votes? They couldn't see it. 2023 election is not the first time that credible people came out. Credible people have been coming out. But the people did not realize the extent of their power. They had self-defeated themselves. In the words of, I think, Henry Ford, he said, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. Either way, you're right. And that's where we are today. There are people who are saying to us they do not believe that we can win at the judiciary. And I said to them, watch us. Once upon a time, they said we wouldn't win at the polling units. They made fun of us, all of us. They will say there are no polling units on social media. When last did you see that statement? When last did anybody tell you that your votes don't count? They haven't. That was something that was done to keep people away from the political process. We allow the worst of us to be the ones who are in the political process. They tell you it's dirty. Oh, and some people will come out and practice it. Oh, I don't do politics. They are all politicians. Every one of us. Deciding to come there today is politics. Whether I wore red, like hijab or black, it's politics. Deciding to wear what you want, it's all about politics. We must distinguish between that politics and partisan politics. So it is no longer business as usual. It is now business unusual. And that's what we have today. If people hadn't participated 3 years ago, what happened in 2023? 3 years ago, nobody thought it would happen. Before exas, and I'll go back. Before exas, we had a generation of Nigerians who really didn't know what military era is all about. I gave birth to my son March 30, 1999. A few months later was, I think, 2 months, April, May. About 2 months later was when democracy, the president was sworn in. So my son, he's 24. He doesn't know anything about military. He didn't see what it was, how deadly government can be. And so they all did their own business. My own generation and the generation before mine, we saw military. We saw what it is to be dehumanized. We saw what it is to not matter. We knew what it is to be afraid to speak even inside the room because we thought government was listening. During Abacha, who are you? You want to call Abacha for inside your room, you go shit. They said that it's 18. Only a few people were out there. And so when we fought and we got this democracy, we thought we had done it all. Because this democracy that we have, as flawed as it is, there are people who gave up their lives. People paid the ultimate price for this. And so we're just, okay, at least there's democracy. Okay, at least we can talk, Sha. Okay, even when we said at least we can protest and all of that. Then, October 20, 2020, the Nigerian government, like I always say, became a terrorist government. It killed its own people. Unarmed youth, whom we have not given enabling environment for them to thrive, who had found niches for themselves, and they tried. They came out and they said, please don't kill us. And what happened? They were killed. So that statement when police will say, I will kill you and nothing will happen, the Nigerian government reinforced that. And after doing that, they mocked the citizens. They said, go and change us at the polls. And I said to them, they messed with the wrong generation. We have been enslaved. Our parents were enslaved. But we refused to give back to slaves. And we would not allow our children to be enslaved. And so our children said no. They messed with the wrong generation, the generation that is creative. They are creative. The Nigerian youth are amazing. I'm in awe of the Nigerian youth. EndSARS protest, when they came out, they decided enough is enough. And I loved what they did. They learned from the past. They started by saying, no leader, we all are leaders. Because they had seen what vertical leadership can do. And they know, and they had their horizontal leadership, where everyone is a leader, and everyone is doing something. Yes, there were still some teams who were leaving. But they learned from all the other protests and everything that had happened. And with that, many people say, oh, EndSARS was a failure because when people were killed, they left the streets. Protest. Being on the street is not the only way to protest. It's supposed to be the last resort. There are so many ways, and I say to people, there are so many people who are activists, who are behind this, who are doing a lot. But most times we don't recognize them. We only look at the people who come out on the street and they speak. But there are different ways. Those who have stolen our mandate, they are the ones running kitty, they run kata kata. Since you see that song, I see that song again. You want a bam bam, you want to chill with the big boys. Now you don't want kitty, you don't feel big, but I don't come. Nothing I say me now. Nothing I know that sing that song. Me now. The people who are stolen our mandates are the ones who are running all over the world. And let me tell you something, they are running all over the world. They came to Washington, D.C. They spent about 2-3 weeks trying to launder their image, trying to legitimize their mandate. And that must not be allowed to happen. I met a professor who was, they say he's the one, knowledgeable about Nigeria, Nigeria matter. I know we're talking, it was like, hey, the answers that our embassy, we're trying to tell them that the stories they know about answers is not really what happened and stuff like that. And it was like, but Tinubu did not go the same way with the president. And I wish he knew. That one that said what people were doing there when people were killed. I mean, he looked about it. So the thing is that they're not just staying back home. They need that legitimacy. They are also working around. And after I finished speaking, the public, we asked for a meeting. We had like a 2-hour meeting a few weeks after, just talking about this issue. They've been going around trying to launder their image and make it look good. But the thing that we must tell the world is that if the world does not allow military coup, why then they allow political coup? When the mandate of the people is stolen, that is political coup. And we must not allow it to stand. The Committee of Nations and international organizations are ready to call out military coup. They must call out political coup. Because people cannot do all that they're supposed to do and go and vote and watch them being killed. I think it was the High Commissioner to Nigeria, British High Commissioner, that came out and said she found the election fantastic. Oh my God, listen, they are going to do that kind of. A lady was killed in my own state, in the capital of my state, Benin City. What was her crime? What did she do? She went out to vote and she was killed. Her husband, her widow, her children, they are not orphans. And you come out to say it was fantastic. That was she. I said, no, it's not. And when the British Parliament were talking about the fact that they spent £5 million, taxpayers' money, on the election, I said, we don't need £5 million. The money that they loot and bring in here is much more than £5 million. And I did that video in my capacity of Pennsylvania big pounds. So I keep talking here. I do my video, I say, Madam, well done. Now you don't just say it was fantastic. A few people in Lagos say, what happened during the gubernatorial election? It was a civil war. It wasn't an election. Election did not happen. And if we allow people who still in that way, they will continue to copy from each other and continue to do it more. It's not just about Nigerian election right now. Ghanaian election, other elections, they are in danger. And that's the reason why we must speak up. I will not go to any government and beg for anything now. My business is my Nigerian government. They do anyhow, they will see anyhow. A lot of people say, are you not afraid of being killed? The container where they forgive person, the death different. Are we different from those people? I started asking myself who is next in 2014. And I'll come to that. Because there's something that we all collectively forget. And so as it is, we cannot stay away. So for those of you, I will come here, I have business friends. But for those of you who are British Nigeria, I don't have to say it. I don't know which one wants to any that exactly, sis. Thank you. You need to, it's your government also. You pay taxes. They have foreign policy, wherever, I don't know what those things are called. You need to ask them, what countries are you looking at? Because the out of that £5 million that they pay to Nigeria, whether it's CSY and all of that, your money is also part of it. So you have a right to do that. And you ask them and ensure that they're giving you answers. Because what we have, if they continue to give enabling environment for people who loot us drug to come to their country and find safe havens and stay there, we'll continue to give. What happens? The same thing. And these are the people that perpetuate themselves in office because they have the money to be able to do that. Why did APC give us Tinubu? Because all you need in Nigeria to be a good government is for the one after you to be worse than you were. Yeah. When I see us sit here and we talk about 2014, 2015, as if it was a good period for Nigeria, just because Buhari wasn't? No, it wasn't. People were killed and the government did nothing. December 2014, the National Assembly was attacked by police in a democracy. I said 2014, not the one that happened, I think the later one was 2018 also. 2014, they went in there, they tear gassed the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Is that a democracy? That was the thing that we were supposed to look the other way? Because we are afraid maybe the one coming in will be worse. What was happening was already worse. 276 girls were taken away from their schools. The government did not speak until 19 days after. That same December, concerning women and children were taken, 186 of them. On the day that Jonathan went to do his declaration, 48 boys had been killed for Cisco. They were in their assembly and they were killed. We can't tell people to remember 1984 when 2014 was happening. People were being killed at that moment. And they brought Tinubu so that in the next 3-4 years, when things would worsen, we'll look back and say, Buhari time, Buhari could do. We'll not forget what he was doing. Because that's it. All you need to be a good government is for the one after you to be worse. We can't have that. Government must listen. What we have, Dr. Ahmed President will always say something. There are two sides of government. The demand side and the supply side. All of us have failed. People do not make demands because of bias. Oh, I voted for him and I cannot talk because Senator Datti, you enter the office to anyhow. You know, you go see anyhow. Anything happen. Say I vote for you, I can fail me. They can't go here, they can't carry black. You know, you enter the PSF. Bros, you go see anyhow. We must get to a place where it doesn't matter whether we voted for somebody or not. When they do the wrong thing, we'll tell them they did the wrong thing. 2015 election, Buhari did not win that election. Jonathan lost the election he was supposed to win. And when I hear us keep talking about 2014, what was that? He lost an election he was supposed to win. 2011, what happened? Nigerians came out. They rallied round. They said the guy didn't have shoe. Because I'm not just going to be done with it. Because if we continue, those who voted for Jonathan in 2015, I say it all the time, and those who voted for Buhari in 2019 are one and the same. They didn't dare. They wanted to keep enabling bad governance. When you enable bad governance, what happens? Worsens. And that's what we have. So when they want people to come, and then they feel it's much better. But you know what? That's not the issue. I needed to put that out because we constantly keep referring as if we had one Eldorado in 20. No! I lived in Abuja. We give you an example. Who amongst us remember when they sent letters to schools in Abuja? The terrorists, and said that schools shouldn't open. My daughter was at the Regent Secondary School. They were doing their midterm, and what do you call this, the prize. Early in the morning, my husband called me. He said, are we going to allow her to go? I said, into I don't, because I was thinking about it, he was worried. And so we normally have a conversation. So we called our daughter. I said, see what's happening. My daughter said, Mommy, Daddy, I'm going. She said, I worked hard and I'm going to collect a prize. And nobody will deny you collecting that prize. And let me tell you, and I'm telling you from the deepest part of me, I lived in Abuja. I took my daughter to school that day. And I said to myself, even if I go to that school and I carry a body back home, not a child, I would not feel anything. Because I will not allow any terrorist to put fear in my daughter. She was 12 years old that time. I'll give you another example. During that whole campaign, during the whole bombings in Abuja, after there was a day I walked into the mosque, Emma Plaza. When Emma Plaza happened, I was there that morning. If the terrorists had come in the morning, I would have been evicted. It was in 2014 I started saying, who is next? On that day, I had gone to, there was a day I had gone to Emma Plaza, Barnes Plaza. It was 4, and I needed to go and pray. And I was walking into the mosque, a Muslim woman wearing hijab, going into the mosque. And the guy was looking down, he looked up, and he was frightened. A Muslim man in a Muslim mosque, seeing a Muslim woman wearing her long hijab, and he was frightened. That was in 2014 we had in Abuja. So please, let us focus. Whether we voted, because the bias is what has kept us back. And if we continue with it, if we continue to keep us back, political bias. Oh, because I'm supporting Labour Party, they will do something I won't talk how. Or maybe religious bias, so because I'm a Muslim. When killings are happening in Southern Kaduna, I will not say anything. Or no, because I'm a Christian. When killings are happening in Zafara, I won't say anything. Or I will talk about the Aisha Yesufu, I will talk about EDOG. These are the things that have kept us back, and we need to learn them, honestly. But having said that, is to say, people tell me they are depressed about 2023 election. How? You can't be depressed. How? Did you see what you did in 10 months? Just 10 months. See the way the political scene has been changed, and it will have been changed forever. See what you brought in. See what participation did. When we kept shouting that the game changers are going to be the youth and Nigerians in diaspora. They're not fit to gas now. They're not fit to intimidate now. They can't bring the exercise. And guess what? When I get money, your £1 is my 900 and something naira. My son started school in his year 10 in UK. My son is dyslexic, by the way. So we needed to take him out of Nigeria to get into a system that would really give him the education we needed. When he came in 2013, pound was how much? 250 naira, 240. I mean, 2013. Before he started his year 10, did his GSE and all of that. By the time he was finishing university, pound had gone to 800 and something, 700 and something. So that's where we all are. We are all affected by what is happening back home. A lot of people back home, we ask you to send them money. You're looking. Nobody will move for Nigeria, reach Nigerians in diaspora. Nobody will move reach there. You know, say, bros, they talk about Mumu Tonti. Nobody will move reach. They will sit down. Now they work how many jobs? Now they not get holiday. Honestly, Senator, I've been in DC since March 24. I never see holiday. Every time they talk to my husband, they say we are two. Salah break, Easter break, this, that break. I never see. You guys work all this hard. You send the money home. People who will sit down, they will not participate in the political process. They will keep asking you. You play God, you play government. And you're feeling cool. And they ask me for money, I send it to them. You are enablers. Enablers of bad behavior. In 2019, I said to myself, I will no longer be stopped up for people who refuse to hold their government accountable. If you don't hold your government accountable, get the consequences. Some of them will tell me, no, you know Nigeria matter. You need to pray. I said, you know how they don't say that how you pray now. Money will come into them. Because we're a nation. I do get it. Poverty has been weaponized. Illiteracy has been weaponized. Poverty, illiteracy, and religion has also been weaponized. But we also must begin to give people ultimatum. That's fear of influence. I think it's GRV that said something about that. We must begin to use it. You said about $30-something billion to Nigeria, all of you connected. I think they said 3 to 4% of the GDP. Guess what? You have zero political power. Who does that? We need your money in Nigeria. They use it, they don't have any politics because they don't allow you to vote. Why would someone spend $3 billion to go back home to go and vote when we have embassies here? If can't they do the vote, can't you all go to your embassy and go and vote there? That's exactly, if they even know you more than us, because a lot of us, you don't even know who you may use to postpone that passport. So these are the things. So as we go on now, it's for us to say to ourselves, well done. We did great, we did amazing. Nigerians did all that was needed to be done. Don't sit down and beat up yourself because of people who decided they were going to steal your mandate. In 10 months, you shook the whole establishment. In 10 months, how many senators did you put together who ought not to have been there? In 10 months, you put in how many House of Rep members? In 10 months, a candidate went to a party that was relatively unknown, 2 of them changed. Nobody was eating corn again. And you are depressed. You see, when you are living history, it's very slow. Think about Nelson Mandela, 27 years in prison. First day, second day, 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 8 years, 1 decade, 2 decades, 2 decades and 5 years, 27 years. Did you think it was easy for you to now come out here? It takes so long. It's almost as if you're not doing it. But one of the things that must be remembered is the small wins. Take the small wins. Look at the things that have been done. Everybody is interested in petition. I've never followed the petition before, electoral petition. Who cares? It's not amongst the lesser evil. We always choose between the lesser evil. We knew that. Okay, out of this, let's take one. Nobody. But still, everybody is a lawyer. We know the grounds. Even Peter Obi, now we know the petition. Peter Obi went to petition. Then we know about because we are checking them. They will do something. They say no. Focus on the issue. That's amazing. That's something. That's great. And don't ever let us assume that we will not get our mandate back. We've never focused on the judiciary. We've always taken our mandate, our request to. I'll soon be rounding up now. We've always taken our mandates to the executive, to the legislative. We've never focused on the judiciary. This is the time we are focusing on the judiciary. I don't trust the judiciary. People are saying, do you do not love us? Am I in a romantic relationship with the judiciary? Why do I need to trust them? All I need to do is to overwhelm them with the evidence to the extent they cannot do anything other than the evidence before the court. As simple as ABC. One of the things that they always, for you not to participate, they will tell you not to have confidence in the system. Why are they going to the judiciary? Go to the judiciary. Go to the court. We don't go court. Now people say when we go court, and they know they show for court, and then when they fear. You understand? So when they tell you that and then you don't participate, by not participating, you've already self-defeated yourself. You've already accepted defeat. When we want this job, we don't see. They've taken us to the lowest of lows. Nigerian life does not matter at this moment. You're walking on the street, container will fall on your head. How many times have they do nothing about it? You come to your house, you're killed, nothing. See, the killing is happening right now. The government don't care. We are the ones that will make them care. Yes, the constitution is not what we want it to be. We will use it as it is now. And as we go on, we get in the people that will fix it. And I will say finally, the legislative arm of government is the bedrock of democracy. We are so fixated about the executive arm. Why don't we, while we are fighting for our mandate, that which by the grace of God, we are so hopeful. Audacity of hope. The same way people are telling me every Nigerians come up, I think I saw hope. And I'm still there. And I hope every one of us is there. That mandate, we will get it back. They don't own that country. All of us that own Nigeria, we tight here. If not that one, we tight here now. We know they go anywhere. No retreat, no surrender. Giving up is not an option. While we are doing that, what are we doing about the legislative arm? How many people by 2027? You know there are always by-elections. What are we going to do when there's by-election in Sokoto? Can we be that blocking vote? That voting block Now we go there and say, who is the most competent person that is running? Or can we even now begin to curate people that we think should run? Even Nigerians in diaspora, why are you not sending people to National Assembly? Why are you not sending people to state houses assembly? You see this thing there? All of us, we got to praise. We got to, I always got something. As everybody get there for psychiatric hospital, now people will occupy their own identity. You see these people, they make this election look like one thing. You participated in the last 10 months. Was there any special thing? Is there anything they know how to do? They couldn't. You beat them at the game they have been doing for decades. So the extent they have to still go freely, and there's so much evidence. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Our mandate, we must get them back. The people's mandate must be given to the people that the people chose, for the candidates that the people chose. Thank you.
Round of applause for this wonderful woman that, if I raise my hand now, you know who I be. Aisha, give me a hand like this. That's so, yeah! I tell you, Nigeria has not been the same, and will never be the same thing. Everybody is feeling the heat. Why are people running from pillar to pole looking for who to congratulate? Nigerians know how to celebrate their leaders, and we also know how to reject our leaders. If we win election, party for those that. Why are Nigerians not celebrating, going to visit the person, looking for a job? Everybody's just quiet. So, what is going to happen here is that the way we are will change, because our mumu, we don't take away. No more mumu. Abi, there's somebody who has been here, who will always be here, who has done so much, who continues to do it, even as he's getting well. I don't know how he manages to do it, but I'll learn before we from here. How can he be 70 something? Then me, when never had it, I'm looking longer than me. It's not possible now. It is unfair. Area Afada himself, he introduced it. He won an only. Tell me, looking 34. You tell us the signature. It's part of the thing. Hey! Hey! No. No, I can, no. And then I said, no, I said, no, I go to my day. See, all the people when they hear, I miss you, no, I like. All the people when they hear, I miss you, no, I like. Okay, why? I'm a Tinubu senior brother. See, I want you to do some one small song. Like I say, make us understand. Okay. Today, just listen first. I saw people with their favorite. Our mumu don't do today. Our mumu don't do today. Oh, today. Our mumu don't do today. Our mumu don't do today. I will go. Sit down. Time don't go, and you get people who come from far,
and they need to go home. I see the menu 7 there outside, they wait for us. See, it's a privilege to sit at the high table with people like this. Believe you me, and all these people where they here, and then they inspire me. And they tell my Peking, them say, Peking, we don't know waiting killing Papa. That same thing will kill that Peking. I mean, not alive. Peking, we don't know waiting killing Papa. That same thing will kill that Peking if you not take time. You see, as you see me here, I get Peking. You know, see Peking, they don't change now. You know, they talk to them anyhow. You sit down and negotiate with them. Not be that time where our papa, our fathers, they tell us, kneel down, go here, come back, come do this, do law, no do law, do medicine. Look like that, or you know they like that. So, and they focus on my grandchildren, and they tell them, they see, as you grow up, I won't make you be like Aisha. I want, and they tell my son, my grandson, because as you see me so, I get 10 children. Only me. I get 10 children. I get 16 grandchildren. I won't bring the temperature down because everybody on this table will not talk waiting as you talk. So there's nothing to talk. And when you deal with intelligent people, when you don't pump the king, when they represent, when they do, they make you proud every time you see them. Just sit on one side, they meet them. They say, oh, God don't bless me. And truth, God bless me. Because I remember 6 years ago, when I come to think, I said, what is the worry Nigerian youth? Why did they behave like this? I will construct that song, whether they are moved on to. But nobody saw it coming for this one. As he said, the consciousness don't rise. As he said, the thing we would never ever expect for our country don't really happen. And nothing made me so proud of the exceptional Nigerian youth than to know, say, true, they've woken up from their slumber. I want to take this opportunity. We're going to award somebody on the side table who keeps embarrassing me, calling me an old man. I'm not an old man. Because if I say, let me hear you, please stop here. And I will see what will happen. I'm not an old man. Please, point of correction. Don't stop. Now you are the talk about. Stop doing that. I don't like that. So I draw inspiration from all those people here because I say the thing why they talk about 40, 45 years ago, before they even born some people who did this thing. I don't they see and the thing they manifest. We know been things say somebody like Peter Obi go come against scatter ground like that. I know been things say for my lifetime, say Nigerian youths go come, they are awake like their eyes, if you know the obedient people, whether anything happen or you know happen, you see Nigerian politics, they can never ever be the same. Forever. Today I can stand up and beat my chest and I say, I contributed something to all of that. Because maybe today we start this journey to come finally see. Because I've always maintained that the salvation of this contraption called Nigeria lies in the hands of exceptional people. And who are those people? The youth. You know, that's like that. Aisha, I don't know whether Aisha some people mention. Well, now you now say the kind of people like they see for London and now they see them for Nigeria. Make I have a small. Because I remember 10 years ago, I used to travel to go to a lot of European countries to go talk to Nigeria. Sometimes the kind of way they take mark tell me, I look there and say, look at these people who just from we country come on, why did they behave like this? We be animals. We know they even think. They don't know what thing may happen to us. Look, the same thing make them jump back come out. But as you say, things don't change. And it's changing for the better. Because that mindset will not get. You don't they drink and they will kick up. Like everybody don't talk. I say they don't talk everything I'm supposed to talk. And I'm proud of all the people that have spoken today. Because the bottom line is that, well, if we dey here, inside on our blood, una no remember say una get a home called Nigeria. Una dey here because you guys are used to things working well, 24 hours light. Una no dey bad o. If una no get where to una go call una home, I'm sorry for them. And the people that are aiding and abetting all these criminals waiting for our land. See, I will tell you something. Should the Indian man come down the road there. They know say that kind of go happen. I give you prediction in the next 15 years, Nigerian people do this country. They will rule this country and they go see shame. I'm telling you, go and write it down. Say I'm going to talk. Because in every sector, name the sector, I bring something now with you. The percentage of Nigerians that you find all over the globe is amazing. Yes. We can't have all of that. And our country to just do like that. The other day, our principal, Utomi, he come visit me. Now, I know say, I've been talk say, my kidney not the work again. So some people, they think say, I can pray. They don't say, I get issues. Me, I not they hide myself. Because if you hide sickness, sickness will hide you. So I hide myself. You understand? And I know say, I better stop that breakdance. I know say, I have inspired, I've made a lot of men come out to talk about their problems. That ordinarily, with my openness, I know what I did do. So I can't finish successful surgery. I can't do. Anyway, when I know say I did Thanksgiving, but the doctor, I still dey go and I never finish the plan because I need to confirm is the instrument all right or not. I never confirmed that. But what I wanted to say, it was hard to work that my principal, our principal, finally came to say, well done. He said, but you don't look like somebody who is sick. I said, yes, because I work at it. I only have one question, because I don't boast before. I say, if can happen, happens in Nigeria. Now, no go find Nigeria. I go Ghana, go relocate. If APC or PTP win, me Me, I could just back up. I don't drive now. I don't drive. 50 years, I don't drive. Make another person drive. But I'm here today. I'm standing before you to tell you something. All that their plan, you know, could walk. That's what I just want to say to you. You see that road tonight? They will not say they get something way past, because this is not about His Excellency here about to be. No, the thing way past them. Don't be count. Okay? Everybody eye don't open. It cannot be like Aisha keeps saying. That's a big business unusual. But today is a very proud day for me, because all the work of the past 50 years, I'm beginning to see it come to fruition. And I'm beginning to feel more confident that it's in my lifetime that this is happening. So ladies and gentlemen, put my hands together for yours. There's no giving up of hope. I don't follow script today. I get to one point where I want it, but I don't know they read anything again. Maybe I don't play any video again. Maybe we just go chop, because we I greet everybody. Thank you.
God bless you. Please, thank you for that round of applause. Can we have one more round of applause for this wonderful team? The team that we are looking forward to, that will change Nigeria. Thank you so much. Hold on. We are time strapped now. We will take a maximum of 10 questions. 2 questions? 2. Okay. We will want only 2 questions. 2 questions. And I will take a male and a female. One from that side and one from this side. Okay. Question, please. Please, the other microphone. Can we give the other microphone to? Actually, please. They will use this one.
Are they? Who is that? Who is that?
In the meantime, can I have that lady ready, please? That lady waving your hand. I think you put up your hand first. You have to speak to Excellency. Excellency said 2 questions. Microphone, please. Where's the microphone? All right, come forward, please. Come forward. Joe, okay.
I describe following the example as a laborer, just that my paymaster is the NHS. I'm an acute medic, and on a daily basis, we're obliged, before we even start going to take an APC, and sometimes all the way to E. That's the nature of my specialty. And one of the main reasons I come here, and I asked especially of Loretta, I can see plan A. I can see a bit of plan B. If there is a plan C in this whole effort, and I see it as a war, to take back the soul of Nigeria, forgive me for saying, you might be hiding it very carefully, and I have been looking, scrutinizing. I cannot see a plan C, talk less of a D for it. Now, those who know the history of the Second World War know that there was something called legacy source. Where is legacy source? Who is coordinating? And how do we sign? Because there was the formal army during the Second World War, but everybody knows the role that legacy source played. I've been looking for the coordinator. It's the main reason I've actually had to swap out of work to come here. Where is legacy source? I want to sign, and I'm going to keep it that simple. Where is the
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm this from Office Primary Television. I'm just quite interested in that question, and I'd love to hear your answers, especially as you talk about this democracy matter. And this kind of on the agenda sounds like a kind of non-democratic thing, which I'm sure we are about. Now, the question I have for anyone on the panel is Nigeria's democracy on trial? Or is it the Nigerian politicians or the Nigerian judiciary that is on trial? And finally, what about what's happening with the Labour Party? Because there's so much confusion going on there. That's not about democracy. And we need the united party if you're going to have victory. Thank you.
For the first question, not everything they will done for public. We can talk, not everything that they come for public. That answers your question. For the second one, I will give this became with
say Havana old man, so that first question but what I can tell you is this. You remember this for they say that what I have found over the course of time that every time you manage to maneuver an implacable force, no matter how powerful that force might be, if you manage to maneuver it to a point where it is having to be defensible, it becomes very easy to defeat such a force. The Nigerian state and the criminals who run it, who have led us into our current cul-de-sac, overplayed their hands on the 25th of February. But they were forced into overplaying their hands by the extent of participation that the people found for the system. Now, because they have overplayed their hands, they've left way too many evidence in the public space that it is next to impossible for the judiciary to credibly ignore these criminalities. So, as far as I'm concerned, the process of go to court, quote unquote, for us, at least for me, it is a process of derobing the criminality of the state before the people. They've said go to court. Yes, we're in court. Whilst we're in court, the Nigerian people and the entire world will be able to see very clearly that both the state and those who are operating the system, particularly the APC, and those it has asked to supervise an election, have merely engaged in reckless electoral violence and stealing, praising daylight robbery, election results that have no bearing with reality, and obviously in breach of all the extant laws. So when you take this through the court system, it helps the people to see and connect them to the obvious criminality of the process that has thrown up a person that is essentially a career criminal as the president of the country. Now, when you finish that phase, it is now up to the judiciary to tell the world and Nigerians if it is indeed the last hope of the common man, or if it is in actual fact and reality, as someone like me has said repeated, essentially a brutal, incapable of giving justice. So it is not we who have any problems here. It is the Nigerian state, the judiciary itself, that has to tell the world if it is really in truth the last hope of the common man, or indeed the slaughter slab of justice. So when we are done with that process, each and every person would have lost the innocence and capacity to claim that they are not complicit, because the line of demarcation between good and evil, which are already clear, that line is already clear, it's not ambiguous, but for those who have been lying to themselves that they cannot see what they obviously see, those lines are going to become impossible to ignore by the time we are done. So if you still find the capacity to support the emergence of a criminal as the president of Nigeria, whether that is you as a Nigerian, be you in the diaspora or within Nigeria, or whether that is you as a foreign entity, be that a government or a company, then your capacity to subjectify the truth that we placed in the open space will define you as a hypocrite. And it will define your society or your government as being either complicit in the crimes you committed against the Nigerian people or not. So for us, that defines the next phase. And I think that should be clear to everybody. We are entering the point where we decide whether we are part and parcel of the problems or whether we are part and parcel of the solution. Now, when you speak to the Labour Party situation, let us be clear. A lot of us are in the obedience movement who are not members of the Labour Party. And there are several persons who will tell you they are members of the Labour Party and they are even striving every day, fighting to gain control of that party, and whose actions are at variance with the stated objectives of the party, the stated goal of the obedient movement. So I'll just say to you, a lot of people are going to come out and tell you they are Labour Party officials. Ignore that. We are focused on what we are doing, and what we are doing, what they are doing is to try and throw distractions our way. And let us be talking about some man who is talking about withdrawing cases in court. They want us to focus on such inanities. And I assure you that you should start them of oxygen. Those who are handling the matter, they are in court, they are dealing with it. All the masquerades behind them, the person funding the factionalization of the party, they are not unknown. But nobody should also pretend not to know exactly why these things are being done. Some people are, if people would arrange fake bishops, why should they arrange executives? So that is as far as I am dealt with. I guess we don't extend it very much.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, everybody has gone well. But usually you have chairman of competition, special guest of honor, which I'm highly honored to be, so if I can arrogate myself as chairmanship. To bring this to a very good end, I would like to say that the common man, not the judiciary, is the last hope of the common man. Really. I'm telling you this as a victim before, as a litigant now, and as a possible victim, I pray not again. You see, there is nothing that cannot happen. I don't want to be this in Nigeria, but there's really nothing that can happen. The sun and the moon are celestial objects high up in the sky, and they both emit light at various degrees or intensity. So, in daytime, when there is cloud cover, somebody says it is at night. If you don't like it, go to court. In a bright moonlight, where you can see face to face, they say it's sunlight. If you don't like it, you go to court. The meaning of in each of at least 2/3 of the states of the liberation which has been defined. And the meaning of and can be changed.
was bright, it was daytime. There was cloud cover. It looked dark. So look, and Nigeria and doesn't mean plus. It means minus. If you don't like it. And when you go to Portugal, the only thing they know is that this man will not just like it. Now, it is easy to talk tough. It is not easy to act tough. That's why I say the common man is the last of the common man. If you think judiciary will come and give you democracy, wake up. The judiciary has to see you that yes, you are a respectable, democratic, self-caring, self-loving, societal meaning common man before the judiciary will respect you. If the judiciary does not respect you, they'll throw anything your way. So everything nice about this common man. Is this common man going to sit down and in 14 days' time, the meaning of "and" would have changed? That is it. Yes, the question from the very brave lady I saw from the NHS. One bullet in the Hebrew square is not the same as one bullet at making cakes. One pint of butter that will spill at the Hebrew square is going to be different from that one at making. But listen, is this going to come easy? We'll sit down holding conferences, writing articles on social media. You know, there's social media and there's social media. Continue writing, sensitizing the international community. You are your own international community. You are your own judiciary. You, the common people, we, the common people. Right now, as the clock is ticking away, the meaning of the common man is fading away as every hour clocks away. Because if INEC had any recognition of the common man, they would not have proceeded to give that certificate of violating the Constitution. The crux of the matter is what does the common man mean in the Nigerian system? That is where the problem is. And if the common man means something to the judiciary, they will not wait to violate the Constitution on 29th of May. Because the common man means nothing to the system. Where is the common man? Some of them are diaspora, some of them are busy at work, some of them are paying their mortgages, some of them do not even know what democracy is, some of them are eating out a living, as a very, very small percentage is feeding fat, feeding large on the calamity of the rest. Badebo before said that the number of those who want Nigeria to work far outweigh those. He is correct, but not entirely. Because the small things that minute number does now outweighs one irresponsible administrative rascal chairing INEC threw us in this problem. Only one out of 216 million. And when it comes to the constitutional vision and everything, where are the Nigerians who want something to work? If you're nowhere to be found, they will sweat this man here. If you're nowhere to be found, that is the end of the business. If you're nowhere to be found, they're holding conferences, read what I'm saying. The operation the NIHS is talking about is in the heart of every Nigerian. How strong do you want to be trying to put me in trouble. As I speak now, they are getting ready to change the middle of what I said. And when I held a press conference, they asked and I answered, I am not going to help like this. By telling Nigerians, no, let it go. I will not. At the same time, I will never ask any Nigerian to do anything that is illegal or constitutional. Is it legal, is it constitutional for you to come out and peacefully protest? Yes. Is that the thing that will add value to the common man in Nigeria? Yes. Is that what is going to bring in the new Nigeria? Yes. Is that what I'm asking you to do? Yes. Any minister is free to go and write DSS now. The videos are available. Yes, and ask Nigerians to come out peacefully and disallow any unconstitutional government from coming to Nigeria. Yes. I gave examples. Here in Europe that you gave, you find people who strap themselves to the highway because they don't agree with the toxic waste that is passing through their direction. What is that? Value to the common man. The rulers, the governments, know that the common man in the UK has substance in him. The misrulers of Nigeria have to know that the common man in Nigeria has substance. It is from them that we begin to matter. That is when they will not breach the constitution in doing all these things. I gave examples of India where farmers sat for 1 year because of conflicts. I gave an example again, as we see today in the news, in Israel. They are in the 8th week of protest. Nigerians have come here, we have talked tough. I listened to everybody talking tough. Are you going to walk the talk? If that's the case, why do you keep saying and complaining and crying what you're crying? Fellow Nigerians, the common man, not the judiciary, is the last hope of the common man. I so conclude. Thank you so much.
On that note, we all rise and sing the national anthem, and then we can bring this conference to a close. The anthem of that great country that we believe in, and we bring the please, DJ, please.
Nigeria's called to serve our Father God with love and strength and faith. The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain. To serve with heart and mind, one nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Please, if we have small chops outside, please don't go without eating them. They will be useless if we leave them.
And the press secretaries.
You can do photos with us today.